All right, gentlemen, buckle up for this one. This is going to be quite the rant. And it's something that I've thought about for many years now. And it's thank God for this journey, because every moment where I've struggled and I've suffered and honestly, I've felt bad for myself, I've slowly started to realize what exactly is happening to me. And I'm not unique in any way. Like, this experience has most definitely happened to one of you watching. I hope this message resonates with you. But the journey that I've been on in the past 5 years probably has been quite tumultuous, to say the least. Ups and downs, very high highs, very low lows. And the thing that I have begun to understand about this game that we call life is that as much as you are told to be selfless and to place your awareness on other people and serve them and not be selfish, that obviously this life, your life, it is about you. And if you don't know who the fuck you are, if you don't know what makes you tick, if you cannot look at your thoughts and understand why you are thinking those things, you are going to lose. And a lot of people have no idea who they are. They have no idea what makes them tick. They have no idea what their strengths are, what their proposed weaknesses are, and we'll get to that in a second. But they have no idea who they are, so they let everything around them, they let society decide for them. And how do you think that ends up? That ends up with everyone being so detached from who they actually are within that we have this numbing of life experience. We have people kind of just mulling along throughout their life. No highs, no lows, kind of just sitting right here saying, okay, well, this is as good as it gets. I'm just going to keep going along. And what I've found is that through the ups and downs, thankfully, I don't think I've ever experienced kind of just mulling along. And I hope I never do. I would much rather be dragging my face through rock bottom for the rest of my life than be caught in the middle ground. That's not for me. Maybe I'll make a video on that. But what I've realized is it all comes down to understanding who you are, knowing what your identity is. Everything, your traumas, your struggles, your strengths, your triumphs, it all starts at the identity level. Most people watching this video don't know what the fuck the identity is. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to be. They don't know what they want their life to look like. They don't know what's allowed them to get to the point where they're at in their life right now. And they go to that middle ground and they just sit there and they numb themselves. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that in order to win the game, it is that simple. Understand who you are, play games that you and you alone can play and win. Play games that you are uniquely suited to win. Because what you have within you, no one else has. That is your greatest strength. And so often, these things, these potential shortcomings, these drawbacks that society and other people in our life tells us are negative, those are your strengths. Those are what set you apart from people. I was just at a movie, and mind you, I'm not someone that goes to movies. I don't watch TV. I don't own a TV. I don't consume media like that because honestly, I don't want that shit in my brain. But recently I watched The Odyssey. I watched the new Spider-Man movie and I thought to myself, okay, why do people like these? Why do people feel attached to these stories? Well, it's because it allows them to live a life that they wish they could live. It allows them to get a glimpse into what's out there. And moreover, what it really allows them to do is to attach their own identity onto the story, onto the plot line of another reality and correlate those events with events that they've lived. I'm watching The Odyssey. And I'm watching Odysseus go across the sea and go through these trials and tribulations and continue to suffer and suffer. And I'm seeing myself in him. I'm seeing Odysseus in myself, in my daily life. I'm watching Spider-Man, and I'm seeing the dichotomy between Spider-Man and Peter Parker in myself. And I hope that a lot of people in the audience are viewing it the same way, because my greatest fear is that people watch these stories and they are so numb that they believe that they're fictional. They believe that they can never live a plot out like that in reality. And I'm not saying you're going to fight the Hulk, or you're going to fight the Lystragonians or a Cyclops. That's not what I'm saying. But there are only so many structures to a story, and that's what this life is. It's one big, great story that we have been blessed with the ability to be a part of. Each and every one of us has a different, unique story. And the common misconception is that it has to be boring. It has to be this slight rise, and then this plateau, and then straight down from there. There's this idea that has been implanted in our heads that life, for the most part, it's boring. And a lot of people think that it's meaningless, which blows my fucking mind. But I won't get into that. These movies, these stories, the reason they resonate is because they serve as a mirror. That big movie screen that you sit down, you grab your popcorn, you grab your snacks, and you stare at for 2 to 3 hours on a Friday night, it's a mirror. It allows you to look ever so slightly within yourself. And you can kind of detach from the world around you for 2 to 3 hours, go home, go to sleep, wake up, and just live the rest of your monotonous life and never do anything to change it. And keep believing that these stories that you're so infatuated with have to remain fictional. That ain't the truth. It really isn't. Because you are the architect of your own reality by the grace of God. You have the freedom to choose. You have forgotten who you are. And I won't even talk about who you can be, because that's not real. Potential isn't real. The past moment, the future moment, not reality. The only reality is right this second as you're watching this video. So if there is this idealized version of yourself, which there's not, that's purely theoretical. There's only you right now. You can be that person if you choose to. You can live out the story that you've always wanted to live out. You have forgotten who you are. You have forgotten the power that you possess. So many people don't understand this. And it's pretty obvious when you look around at the people that have quote unquote made it, or the people that are successful, the people that are the happiest, the most fulfilled, the most driven. They've figured this out. They've written their own story. God will steer you, but you must row. I'm not saying that you can go out and be the ultimate overseer for your life and pick and choose where you go, what you do, and what you don't do. You can to a degree, but ultimately you don't have the final say. But what you do have is the power within you to propel yourself forward. And for a lot of people, they don't do that. They don't realize that. And maybe even worse, they realize and they recognize that hey, I have the power to do this, but it scares me. I would rather be right where I'm at and I'd be comfortable. So they're watching these movies and they're aware. They're aware that these stories, maybe they're not so fictional after all. Maybe my life could look like that. Maybe I could be the hero. Maybe I could be the person that I only see in my dreams. But what they do, and this is important here, is they block themselves from being able to fully conceptualize that. They build up these walls around their subconscious mind, and they trap themselves because they think that it's going to make them safe. They think that they're protecting from the external world letting them down. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is boxing themselves in and giving themselves no way out, and setting themselves up for failure, monotony, stagnation, lack of fulfillment. And then they get to the end of their life, maybe the middle of their life, and they wonder why they're at where they're at. And they think back to when, they're in their 20s, their 30s, maybe before they have a family, and they think about what if? What if I didn't do that? What if I was a little bit more delusional? What if I sacrificed a little bit more? What if I took just a little bit more risk? What if I stopped caring how realistic things were? What would my life look like? What if I realized the power that I hold within myself? Because, and I'll be completely honest with you, this is God's honest truth. Everything, and I mean everything, you will ever need is already within you. Everything. You have been gifted the power within you to do whatever you want, to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, to overcome whatever you want to overcome. Not without suffering, by the way. That's an essential part of the process. But you have this power, and you don't recognize it. Because the only way to understand that you have this ability is to know who you are. And like I said at the very beginning of this video, most people don't. And I'll be honest with you, I am still figuring out who I am. My life, especially the last 18 months or so, has been ups and downs, ups and downs. We're so back, it's so over, so on and so forth. Thank God. Because I could have, gotten hit in the mouth, which I did most definitely, and then kind of just mulled through my life and just been like, okay, it is what it is, bro. Which is funny I bring that up. These stories, going back to the movies, when I say people have a misconception that these are fictional stories, it's the same thing when people have events happen to them and they think that they're either good or bad. There is no fictional or nonfiction. There is no good or bad. There's no real or fake. There's no thought or reality. It's one and the same. There's no polarity. All of these things are just constructs that us humans have tried to apply to a ever-changing universe that we'll never be able to comprehend. And where I'm getting at with this is that it is what it is. It is and only ever will be what it is. An opportunity. The present moment. Now. Whatever is happening to you, whether it's good or whether it's bad, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what you do in that moment, what action you take. So when you watch these movies and you see, okay, Peter Parker, he's struggling with his identity between Spider-Man and himself, and he's trying to figure out how to harness himself, how to harness these powers. He feels like a monster. Everyone's telling him that these things that make him him are negative and they're destructive, and he suppresses them, and it starts to eat at him. It starts to quite literally manifest in the sense that it starts to tear him down. What gives him the most power starts to devour him when he tries to suppress it. And that's what a lot of people do, is they have these quote unquote perceived weaknesses, these drawbacks, these shortcomings, these things that maybe aren't the most advantageous qualities for them, or so they think. And so they try to suppress it. They try to suppress who they are. So much so that they dampen the exact frequency, the signal that differentiates them from all of the noise in the environment. And they put a limiter on themselves. They put a governor on their own capability. And I won't even say potential, because like I said earlier, potential isn't real. You either are or you aren't. It is what it is. And the perspective shift that you need to understand in order to truly, one, understand who you are, but then leverage that to your advantage, is that those things, they aren't negative or positive. They aren't good or bad, advantageous. That shit does not exist. They are exactly what they are. I am an overthinker to the max. I am a perfectionist. I'm an OCD type. I have surges of energy where I'm high as a kite, and then I will wake up the next day and I will feel completely unmotivated and not want to talk to anyone. And the healthcare industry be like, okay, well, maybe you have bipolar disorder, there's depressive symptoms, whatever. Those are just arbitrary things. Like, it is what it is. And for the longest time, I tried to run from this. I tried, even recently, I looked at myself, I said, okay, I'm overthinking what I am trying to do in my life. What can I do to change it? What can I do to suppress my innate abilities? Basically, what I'm doing is saying, what can I do to dampen who I am? What can I do to turn down the notch a little bit and try to be like everyone else? What can I do to try to fit into the square hole as a circle block? And guess what? It didn't work. And what I realized watching these movies, and I'll wrap this up real quick, is that those things that we think are negative and that we think have held us back, and those flaws, they're not flaws. They are what make us us. And this is where I'm tying everything together. Once you know who you are, you know your perceived weaknesses and your strengths and what makes you tick, you can leverage that. If I'm an overthinker, guess what? I sat down today. I said, okay, what were the things that I've always been good at my entire life? I have always been very good at thinking, at writing, at retaining information, having a photographic memory, conceptualizing things. And what I've done in the past is look at that and say, okay, well, thinking isn't good. I just need to take action. Yes, that's true, but that's not the reality of things all the time. Like, it's not just this binary system where it's this or that, my way or the highway. That's not how it is. But what I've done is I shifted my perspective. I said, okay, yes, overthinking super simple concepts probably isn't the best. If I were to go into the kitchen and make a sandwich, would overthinking what type of jelly to use serve me? Obviously fucking not. But if I have this profound thought, such as what I'm talking to you about right now, wouldn't my overthinking and my cognitive ability serve me right to be able to explore this, to be able to dive deeper and try to understand why these stories resonate with us? Why we are so drawn to these things? That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm using that. I could have gone home and been like, okay, I don't want to think about this. I'm just going to turn my brain off because I need to detach from who I am. I need to numb it. Fuck that. I drove to a parking lot. I literally yelled to myself the entire way here, going through in my head, okay, what do I want to talk about? Because this message that I am profusely sharing now, this is something that has been locked up here for a very long time, largely because I've been afraid of judgment. Not even from someone watching this video, but from myself. Because I've been scared to overthink how I would perceive myself tomorrow morning when I watch this video. I'm not watching this video. So if you've watched this far, first of all, you're a fucking G. Respect. And second of all, if I were to give you one piece of advice, understand who you are. That's the first part. Know what makes you tick. Know what your strengths are. Know what your perceived weaknesses are. Reframe and change your perspective on those things and understand, hey, how can I actually flip this on its head? How can I use this to my advantage? How does this set me apart from every other person out there? And then I want you to operate out of this consciousness. You are that motherfucker. No one else is you. Seriously. And that's why I feel so blessed to be able to do what I do, because what I am building with Hard to Kill is quite literally an extension of myself. It's not this separate entity. It's not this, oh, I have a business idea. It's, no, this is who I am. This is my operating system. That's what Hard to Kill is. It's not some fucking thing that I just made up one day. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. No, this is my lived experience. This is the way that I view things. I am Trey Worcester, and there's Hard to Kill. I am both of those things. Similar to how there's Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Call that corny if you want. I think it's fucking sick. Batman and Bruce Wayne, one in the same. Separate, but the same. That's how I feel with Hard to Kill. That was a tangent. Back to my advice. Never forget who you are. You have so much power. You are more than capable of anything and everything. You don't need anything external. I promise you that. The best use of your time, if you want to move forward and continue to move forward, is to look within yourself. The only way to do that is to drown out the noise around you. And I'll get to that in another video. Have a great night. God bless.